Good morning to you all, students. Did you go through the lecture notes I have?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to follow the
Your voice is breaking, ma'am. Not clear, ma'am.
How is it now? Vanshekar, is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you see the presentation, students?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. Welcome to this 7th lecture under module 5. In the previous session, we have seen how to develop a MapReduce application in Hadoop and the configuration API, how to set various properties in the configuration files and combining the resources. Say if you have two XML files, then you can combine those resources by giving the add resource method of the configuration object. Now, if you give a second resource, that will actually override the already mentioned resource. But if you don't want some properties to be overridden, then in the first configuration file, you can give it as final so that the next added resources properties will not actually override the old properties. Okay, that we have seen in how to combine the resources and also the variable expansion. If you want to set some properties in the XML file while adding the resources at the command line itself, then you can specify that property with a dollar symbol so that you can add those properties in other XML files or from the command line so that that particular value will be taken. You don't need to give any default value for that kind of variables. Okay, these are the topics covered in the last class. Now in today's lecture, we are going to see how to set up the development environment and managing the configuration and how to use generic options parser class along with tool and tool runner interfaces in order to give some generic options to the configuration files directly from the command line argument. Directly through a command line argument. Now, let us see how to set up the development environment. For this, the first step is to create a project so you can build MapReduce programs and run them in local or standalone mode from the command line or within your IDE. So first you have to set up a project. You have to create a project into which actually you can start building the MapReduce programs. Now for this building up of the project, you can use build automation tool like Maven. Maven is a build automation tool which will help you to automate the entire building process of a project. In order to build the entire project in an automated way. Means it provides proper IDE which assists you in building the project so that you can build your MapReduce programs within that project. Now the Maven POM, that is the project object model, will show the dependencies needed for building and testing the MapReduce programs. This has pre-configured dependencies which will be shown to us in order to build and test our MapReduce programs. Now for building MapReduce jobs, you only need to have the Hadoop core dependency which contains all the Hadoop classes. So the main artifact that you have to load here is the Hadoop core dependency, which will actually contain all the Hadoop classes, the basic Hadoop classes needed to write your MapReduce jobs. Now for running any unit tests, means in order to test whether each of your MapReduce programs are working at a smaller scale so that you can scale it up onto a larger cluster later. But first you have to test whether it is working at the smaller level. For that, you have to write some unit tests associated with your map and reduce programs. For that, for running unit tests, we use JUnit, Java unit, as well as a couple of helper libraries, the ham crest all. I'll show you in the file how exactly they are mentioned. Hamcrest All is another helper library which provides useful matchers for writing test assertions. Say you want to test the file status. You want to test whether the data is written with the required length or not. Or if you want to test a Boolean code, then you have seen that we are using assert that function, right? In order to provide such useful matches for writing test assertions, this Hamcrest All helper library is included. And there is another helper library, MR unit, that is MapReduce unit, which is actually used to write the MapReduce tests. Now, the Hadoop test library contains the mini clusters that are useful for testing with Hadoop clusters running in a single JVM. Remember, always we try to run a program, MapReduce program, at a smaller scale in a pseudo-distributed mode. Means standalone mode means it will not work entirely standalone. It will be run in a pseudo-distributed mode where all the Hadoop daemons will be run in that pseudo-distributed mode, which assists the completion of a MapReduce program. Now, this MapReduce job is checked at a smaller scale on a pseudo-distributed mode, in a pseudo-distributed mode on a single machine, then it can be scaled up onto a larger cluster. For that, you have to test at a smaller scale first, whether it is working properly or not. So the Hadoop test library contains the mini clusters that are useful for testing with Hadoop clusters running in a single Java virtual machine. Now, many IDEs can read Maven POMs directly, the Maven project object models directly. So you can just point them at the directory containing the POM XML file and start writing the code. So this pom.xml file is actually read directly and it will be kept ready. Now you can just point your new project to that particular XML file and start writing your code so that pom.xml will be automatically included into your project. Those configuration properties will be automatically included into your project. Now, alternatively, you can use Maven to generate configuration files for your IDE. Means you can also make it explicitly generate the configuration files for your IDE in which you are actually writing your programs or developing your application. Now, for example, the following creates this command what we are discussing, we are going to discuss, creates Eclipse configuration files. So you can import the project into Eclipse and start working with it. Start developing your MapReduce functions within that project. How you do that? %MVN. MVN stands for Maven. That is the automation tool, build automation tool we are using. And because you are importing it to Eclipse environment, we are using Eclipse Eclipse -d, download the sources and set it to true. Means it will download all the source files that are required for that particular project building. And -download Java docs also to be true. So any Java native files or Java native methods have to be downloaded, that can be enabled by using true, as well as you can also associate unit tests to the MapReduce programs. For that, we have to enable this to true. -d, download Java docs equal to true. This -d is used to override the already existing properties. -d is a command which overrides the existing properties or default properties. Now, before going to the next concept, let me show you how exactly these are included in an XML file. This need not be remembered to present in the exam, but just go through so that you will understand how exactly this looks like. Are you able to see? Okay, now we are going to see a Maven POM for building and testing a MapReduce application. For that, you are starting with the project tag in the first part or last part of this first page. And then model version, group ID, all these are common. Artifact ID. See the third line, artifact ID, you're giving Hadoop book MapReduce developer. Means you're giving this artifact ID as indicating that you're going to develop a Maven project which uses MapReduce program. Okay, and the version being used here is 3.0. And the properties you're going to set. Initially, we are specifying the source encoding as UTF-8, and even the output encoding also should be the same, which has to be followed same as the source encoding. The main part we already discussed is this dependencies. See this tag, I'm stopping it here, starting of the screen. Dependencies, we are adding, this is a comment just to indicate that what we are adding, which property we are trying to add. So the Hadoop main artifact, the dependency we are using here is Hadoop core. See, I'm pointing it here. The artifact ID is Hadoop core. It is taken from the org.apache.hadoop, right? So this Hadoop core is mentioned along with its version. This indicates that all the basic Hadoop classes have to be included in your project. Okay, that is why we are mentioning the artifact ID as Hadoop core. Now come to the next part, unit test artifacts. So if you want to associate any unit test with your MapReduce programs, that can be enabled by using the group ID as JUnit. I'm mentioning it here. I'm just pointing it here. Can you notice this? Group ID is JUnit. That is the Java unit. So you can associate the Java unit tests along with your MapReduce programs. Okay, that is why you are using JUnit artifact ID along with its associated version. Version need not be bothered much. You just focus on what properties we are trying to add. First, we added Hadoop core for all the Hadoop basic Hadoop classes that are required for running a MapReduce job. We are trying to include it into our Maven project, and the JUnit to associate unit tests with the MapReduce jobs. And the third one is the Hamcrest all library. There are two helper libraries that are useful for us. One is the Hamcrest all library. Notice the artifact ID here, what we have mentioned, we are giving Hamcrest all. This Hamcrest all will help us to check the file status. Check the file status using assert.that functions. Any assert.that comparisons can be done by using this Hamcrest all syntax. Syntax provided in Hamcrest all. And the next helper class we are using is MRUnit. This is MapReduce unit, which will help us to associate some unit tests with the MapReduce programs again. And the other artifacts that we included are to run on a mini cluster. Why? Because you have to check your MapReduce program whether it is running at a smaller scale on a mini cluster on in a pseudo distributed mode. Remember, mini clusters are provided in a pseudo distributed mode in order to check the functionality of your MapReduce at a smaller scale. Now, this mini clusters, once they execute without any errors, then we can scale it on to larger clusters in a data center, right? That is why we are adding the mini clusters also by using Hadoop test in order to check how your MapReduce job is running on a mini cluster, and also the Jersey core. This also provides some dependency in order to run your MapReduce jobs on mini cluster. Okay. And finally, any Maven plugins. In the last group ID, we have used org.apache Maven plugins. So any basic Maven plugins or dependencies that are required in order to run a MapReduce project, that can be added in the last part. Okay, once again, I am just telling you You need not write as it is in the exam. You can just highlight on what artifacts are being used, what properties are being set for a project in order to develop a MapReduce application. Okay, so those main properties, if you highlight, it is enough. You need not follow the entire syntax as it is. Now let's get back to the presentation. Right. Okay, and this is what I explained you, right? We added Hadoop core for the basic Hadoop classes, and we added the JUnit and Hamcrest all and the MR unit in order to write some MapReduce tests, and also the Hadoop test library, which contains a mini cluster so that you can test your application at a smaller scale. And this can be made available by giving the pym.xml file, making it available so that it can be directly picked and into your project so that you can start writing your code. Okay. Now let's go to the next part, that is managing your configuration. Now when developing Hadoop applications, it is common to switch between running the applications locally and running it on a cluster. This task is very important in order to make your MapReduce programs error-free. You have to first test it locally in a pseudo-distributed mode. Whatever features you add to your MapReduce program or whatever extra functionalities you add to your MapReduce program, they should be tested locally first at a smaller scale. Only then it can be run on a cluster. Now, while running on a cluster, if you wanted to add some extra features or extra functionalities, again, you have to switch back to your local pseudo-distributed mode, run that particular functionality and check whether it is error-free or not, and then port it onto a larger cluster. For this, when developing Hadoop applications, it is very common task to switch between running the application locally in a pseudo-distributed mode and running it on a cluster. Now, in fact, you may have several clusters you work with. It is not that the data center has only single cluster, right? You may be working with several clusters, or you may have local pseudo-distributed cluster that you like to test on, if at all you want to test it in the initial stages itself. Now, one way to accommodate these variations or these swapping between these two scenarios is to have Hadoop configuration files containing the connection settings for each cluster so that you run against it and specify which one you are using when you run Hadoop applications or tools. Okay. As a matter of best practice, what you have to do here is, it's recommended to keep these files outside Hadoop's installation directory tree so that as this makes it easy to switch between Hadoop versions without duplicating or losing the settings. So any Hadoop's installation directory trees are there. So all these configuration files should be kept out of that, so that if any switching between the Hadoop versions takes place, it doesn't result in duplicating of the settings or losing the settings due to some error. That is why all these Hadoop configuration files have to be kept separate from your Hadoop's installation directory tree. Now let us assume the existence of a directory called CONF. Let us take the directory name as CONF that contains 3 configuration files. They are Hadoop-local.xml, which has the properties set for the configuration file in order to run it in a pseudo-distributed mode, and Hadoop localhost.xml, some extra properties, additional properties, again to run it in a pseudo-distributed mode, and Hadoop cluster.xml, which has the properties to run it on a cluster at a larger scale. Now they pack up some configuration settings. All these XML files will pack some configuration settings. Now these configuration settings can be default provided in the XML files, or still the user can override these default configuration properties by specifying at the command line. We'll see how to do that. Now the Hadoop local.xml file contains the default Hadoop configuration for the default file system and the job tracker as well. Let me show you how it is mentioned. Observe this, in this configuration file, Hadoop local.xml configuration file, two properties are set. One is the default name and the other one is the job tracker that has been set. Here, see the name of the property. It is given as fs.default.name. Here we are mentioning the file path or the default file system that has to be used by this configuration file in order to execute the MapReduce task. What is the default file name that can be mentioned within this value tag? The default file system name can be mentioned in this value tag so that that file system can be taken in order to run the MapReduce jobs. And the other property that is being set is MapReduce.jobTracker. This job tracker is again run on the local system because this is the Hadoop local XML, right? Local XML runs in a pseudo distributed mode. That is why the job tracker also will be run on the same system. That is why we are giving the value as local here. And finally, we are ending the configuration tag. Okay, now the settings in Hadoop local.xml point to a name node and a job tracker both running on the local host. Say if your single machine is the local host, is taken as the local host where all the Hadoop daemons are running, all the 5 Hadoop daemons. I'm repeating once again: name node, secondary name node, data nodes, job tracker and task tracker. If all these 5 Hadoop daemons are up and running on your local machine, it makes your local machine to run in a pseudo distributed mode. Now, when you want to point to a name node and a job tracker both running on the local host through this Hadoop localhost.xml file, then what are the properties you're going to set? How you're going to set the properties? See the property here, fs.default.name. Here, this is set to localhost. The file system that it has to refer is mentioned by the URI hdfs localhost, so that it refers to the local host itself in order to access the file system. And see the property. The property here is taken with the localhost port again, so that the job tracker is also run on the localhost. Localhost colon 8021 is given, so that it indicates that the job tracker is again running on the same local machine. Finally, Hadoop cluster.xml file contains details of the cluster's name node and job tracker addresses. Remember, a cluster can have multiple name nodes. Because of this HDFS federation that is introduced by Hadoop 2.x release, you can have multiple name nodes. And each name node can hold the file system under a specific root directory. Right? For that, this Hadoop cluster.html contains details of the cluster's name node, that particular cluster's name node, and where the job tracker is actually residing, where the job tracker is running. Those addresses will be mentioned in this Hadoop cluster.xml file. Now, in practice, if you would name the file after the name of the cluster rather than cluster as we have here. So when you're mentioning the cluster where the name node and job tracker addresses are situated, then rather than giving the cluster, it is always better to denote it with the name of the cluster, so that there will not be any ambiguities when you're working with multiple clusters. Okay. Now under this configuration file, you're using fs.default.name and taking the name node. Here you can change the name node according to the cluster name. Say this name node is residing on cluster 1, you can give it as cluster 1 name node. Or if it is on cluster 2, you can give it as cluster 2 name node. or sometimes name node also can be identified by using the root directory under which all the files are held by this name node. Okay, it depends on the user how to specify the name. And again, the map reduce job tracker is mentioned here. It is job tracker running at a particular port number. It depends on which cluster this name node and data node job tracker addresses are residing. Based on that, you can specify it in the properties tags. Now let's move on to the next topic, generic options parser, where you can provide extra properties from the command line so that they override what are already mentioned in the configuration file. So a client want to change the configuration properties. Still he can do that by using generic options parser, which uses the interfaces tool and tool runner. Now Hadoop comes with a few helper classes for making it easier to run jobs from the command line. Now generic options parser is one such class that interprets common Hadoop command line options and sets them on a configuration object for your application to use as desired. So through this generic options parser, you can add some command line options so that you can reset the properties already defined in the configuration XML files. Now you don't usually directly use this generic options parser, but as it is more convenient to use it in a different way, by implementing the tool interface and run your application with the tool runner, which uses generic options parser internally. So this generic options parser class, which actually interprets the common Hadoop command line options, is not used directly. It is actually implemented by using the tool interface, and it runs your application with the help of tool runner, and these both use the generic options parser internally at the background. We doesn't directly implement it. We doesn't directly use this class to implement this tool or tool runner interfaces. Okay, so how you do that? Public interface, you use tool which extends the configurable class which is implementing the configured interface. Understand this carefully. You are using the tool interface that is what is already defined. You are using this tool interface which extends the configurable class which implements the configured interface, right? Now this has a declared function run. This is already declared in the tool interface, which can be overridden by the classes which implement this tool interface. Okay, so this run class, this run method is declared, and it is declared to be throwing exception in some extreme cases. See here, we are not using generic options parser directly. We are using it through a tool interface. Okay, remember that. Now let me show you how this tool implementation is done for printing the properties in a configuration. Now let us take the class as configuration printer. We are writing our own class, configuration printer, which actually prints the properties in a configuration class, and it extends the configured class, which also implements the tool interface. Okay, now we have a static block here which has to be run by default, and this implements add default resource with the help of configuration class. What resources you are trying to add? We have seen this already. HDFS default.xml and HDFS site.xml. HDFS default.xml has all the default properties for the configuration file, and HDFS -site.xml has the site-specific configuration properties for that particular client and server. Now, we also have map-reduce default.xml and map-reduce site.xml. Again, site.xml will have the site-specific configuration properties that are described in this XML file. This helps us to locate the name node for that particular cluster. Now see this annotation notation which tells that you're trying to override some method which is already declared. Here we are trying to override the run method which is already declared in the tool interface. Okay, now we are trying to use this run method which takes the command line argument, that is any properties that you pass. Now within this run method, what is your first step? You have to create the configuration object so that it gets the configuration sources already added. Now you are creating the configuration object here, and for each loop you are using in the next step. For each loop, take the entry point as whatever is read from the configuration object. Now, whatever is read into configuration object is actually obtained by get configuration method from the resources that are added. Okay. Now we are taking it in a key value pair. That is, which is the property and what is the value the property is set to. That is mentioned in key and value. I am repeating once again. Per each loop is being used in order to refer to each property and to value which it is set to. Here, say the property set is color and the value set is say red. In that case, the first string will be color and the second string will be red. First string will be the property and the second string will be the value to which it is set. Okay. Now you are taking each such property into entry and you're trying to print it onto the standard output, that is onto your screen. What you're doing in this Java class is you're trying to read the default properties in a configuration file and you're trying to write it onto the standard output. Okay, for that you have added all the resources, trying to fetch what are the configuration properties set in those resources and printing it onto the screen. Now we are using this entry into which the details of configuration properties are read. Into this entry, the configuration properties are being read one after the other. Now you are taking entry.getKey, what is the property, and entry.getValue to which it has been, to which value it has been set to. Okay, and you are writing it onto the screen by using printf command. Now see the next step, you are actually giving the main method now. Did you observe here in this particular Java class, we are using C++ functions as well as Java functions wherever required. It is not that two languages may not be, create some compatibility issues. You can use Java and C++ methods within a Java class under this Hadoop configuration files. Now we are using here the main method which takes again the command line argument, and this throws again if any exceptions are raised, they'll be caught automatically. Now see this exit code. You are using the tool runner interface, tool runner class in order to call the run method which creates the new instance of this configuration printer class. Okay, you're creating the new instance of this configuration printer class, and along with the command line argument passed, say if you're trying to set any values, that has to be read, right? So that is being taken from the argument string vector, which is passed as command line argument. Now both of these are being passed to the run method, which is invoked by the tool runner, and this will return an exit code. Means it will run as long as the property information is existing in the resources, and once all the information is read, then it returns an exit code of 1, which indicates completion. Now system.exit code, if it is 1, then it ends that particular task, ends this entire running of the Java program. Okay, that is why you are reading the status into exit code. Now once all the properties are read from the resource file, then it returns appropriate Boolean code to the exit function of system class, which will check that code and terminates the running of this particular Java class. Now we make configuration printer a subclass of configured. We observed that here, right? Here we have used, defined our configuration printer class as to extend configured superclass. We make configuration printer a subclass of configured class, which is an implementation of the configurable interface. Okay, this configured is already an implementation of the configurable interface. Now, all implementations of tool need to implement configurable, since tool extends it. Tool extends this particular configured class. So all implementations of tool need to implement this configurable interface, and subclassing configured is often the easiest way to achieve this. Why? Because configured already implemented configurable interface. Okay, go through this topic again and again in order to resolve any confusions you have with this extensions and implementations of various classes and interfaces. Now the run method obtains the configuration using configurables get configuration method that we have used here, right? This is where we are using the get configuration method, and that details you are obtaining into the configuration object. The run method obtains the configuration using configurables get configuration method, and then iterates over it by using the for each loop, printing each property to the standard output. We have seen this, right? It is using the for each iteration in order to read each property and its associated value in order to print it onto the standard output. Now the static block makes sure that the HDFS and MapReduce configurations are picked up in addition to the core ones. We have given here the static block, right? This ensures that the core MapReduce definitions are taken. The static block makes sure that the HDFS and MapReduce configurations are picked up in addition to the core ones. Okay. Now, configuration printer's main method does not invoke its own run method directly. The configuration printer, we have given the main method, static main method, that will not directly invoke the run method. Why? Because it is actually declared in an interface, tool interface. So that has to be implemented. Instead, what is alternative? Instead, we call tool runners static run method, which takes care of creating a configuration object for the tool before calling its run method. So that is what we observed here, right? Before calling the run method, the configuration object will be created. That is why we can directly call this get configuration method of the tool runner. And that is what we mentioned here. We call tool runner static run method, which takes care of creating a configuration object for the tool before calling its run method. Now, tool runner also uses a generic options parser to pick up any standard options specified on the command line and to set them on the configuration instance. So this tool runner uses the generic options parser in the background in order to pick up any standard options specified on the command line. So this generic options parser will enable you to specify any properties on the command line and to set them on the configuration instance. Which instance you are using right now through this configuration printer class. All the properties can be set by passing them through a command line, which are actually interpreted by the generic options parser. Now we can see the effect of picking up the properties specified in configuration directories Hadoop localhost.xml by running the following command. Let us see how it is run. We are using maven compile and export the Hadoop class path, whatever classes you wanted to read into your project that you give here, and along with that you are also calling the configuration printer Java class, which takes the configuration from the Hadoop localhost.xml. Means you're trying to read the properties that are set in this Hadoop localhost.xml, and you're trying to get it into the configuration object through running this configuration printer class that I have explained you in the previous slide. Okay, now all these configuration properties are read and they are printed to the standard output that we have done already. Now, if you want to keep track of the job tracker, you can give the generic regular expression. This is a pattern matcher command where you can match the patterns that are specified as a value to this property. You are using map reduce dot job dot tracker and you are giving this property. Means you are telling it to refer to localhost on port number 8021. This is what you are passing through the command line. Now, generic options parser also allows you to set individual properties. Here you are just making a job tracker to select a particular local host so that the address of the job tracker now on resides on that local host. Now, if you want to set individual properties like color or font, if you want to set such individual properties, you can do that using this command %Hadoop. You call this configuration printer class, which we defined in the previous slide. And using this -d, you can try to override what is given in the command line argument. Remember, .xml files have the default properties set. Now, if the user want to override those default properties, he can give it through the command line argument. He can give it as a command line argument by using the command -d, so that this helps to override the existing properties. Now, using this -d, we are setting the color to yellow in the XML file by using grep command for the color and giving the color as yellow. Giving the color as yellow. So this displays that the color is set to yellow. I'm repeating once again. You're calling this configuration printer Java class and using -d command in order to override already existing properties defined in Hadoop localhost.xml. Not only setting the job tracker address, but you can also set some individual properties like color and size or weight or width, some properties like that. Now, using this -d, you are overriding the color that is already set in your Hadoop localhost.xml to yellow by using grep color command. Now, this is same as your Unix grep command. Now, the color is set to yellow. This new color will be considered rather than the default, which is already defined in your .xml file. Now, this -d option is used to set the configuration property with key color and the value yellow that we have seen. Now, options specified by using this -d take priority over properties from the configuration files. So this -d helps us to give priority to the user-defined properties which are passed through the command line so that it can be considered over the properties that are already defined in your configuration files. Now, this is very useful because you can put defaults into configuration files and then later override them. Yes? Yeah. This -d will help us to override already existing properties so that the user, if he wants to add some new properties or customize according to his wish, in that case, he can use this -d so that it will override the default properties in the XML files that are added as resources. Now, this is very useful because you can put defaults into configuration files in the initial stage and then override them with the -d option as and when needed, as and when you want to customize the properties. Now, a common example of this is setting the number of reducers for a map reduce job via this command. Say initially you don't have idea of how many reduced jobs have to be taken. In the previous sessions we have seen a map reduced job can have one reduced task, multiple reduced tasks, and sometimes it need not have any reduced tasks if the map tasks need to be run in parallel and directly written onto a file system on HDFS. I think you can recollect that class, right? Where you can have an option between selecting your number of reduced tasks. Now, if you want to set the number of this reduced task, that can be done by using this -d. Initially, you can set a default, say 2 reduced tasks can be used. Later, you found that the 2 reduced tasks may not be used. One is enough actually. Why? Because the map task with the combiner task is actually reducing most of the output and consolidating it readily. So one reduced task will be enough for you to arrive at the final consolidated result. In that case, the default reduced task number 2 can now be set to 1. Or if you don't want any reduced tasks, it can be completely set to 0. That can be done by using -d mapred dot reduce dot task. You can set the number 0 or 1 or more than 1. Okay. Now this will override the number of reducers set on the cluster or set in any client-side configuration files. So if you have any default reduced task or if you have any reduced tasks that are already set, they can be overridden based on the requirement by using this -d command. Now in the forthcoming sessions, let's see how to write a unit test using MapReduce unit package and running locally on test data and how to run a job in a local job runner and also how to test the drivers. How is the journey, students, today? Did you understand the concepts? Any doubt in today's concepts? Gunashekar? Okay, shall we end the class then? Surya, Gunashekar, Apurva, any doubts today?
No.
Okay, just go through the notes once again. You will be able to recollect what has been discussed. Right?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, from Monday you have internal exams, second internal. Because the revision classes are already conducted, no more revision classes will be conducted for your second internal. Tomorrow also you will have regular class only. Okay, see you in the next class. Bye.